Let's get this one out of the way. Meltan is not a Generation 8 Pokemon. A few months ago, I did a video on my Pokemon pet peeves. If you missed that, I recommend you check it out after this, but I really enjoyed making it, and you guys generally seem to enjoy watching it too. We had a lot of fun complaining about Pokemon together, and since that seems to be sort of this channel's brand now, I decided to cover some more of my Pokemon pet peeves.
That is kind of your brand, isn't it?
Make sure to head down to the comments and let me know what your Pokemon pet peeves are. So, Meltan. For some reason, there's been a lot of discussion about which generation it's from, and it's been a thing since it was first revealed, but it was renewed recently with the Pokemon of the Year vote, where Meltan is grouped with the Generation 8 Pokemon under Galar, etc. But here's the thing, the term generation is widely misunderstood, and it really bothers me when I see it used wrong. A generation is not the Pokemon, it is not the region. A generation in the Pokemon context is the games. Or more specifically, it's defined by the brand new main series games that kick off each generation. Now, it doesn't bother me if you use, say, Generation 1 Pokemon as sort of shorthand for the Pokemon introduced in the first generation of Pokemon games. Same with the regions. You can say Hoenn is Gen 3 if what you mean by that is that Hoenn was introduced in the third generation of games. But not every game that takes place in Hoenn is a Generation 3 game, and not every game that is Generation 3 takes place in Hoenn either. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are Generation 6 games, not Generation 3. Fire Red and Leaf Green, Generation 3, not Generation 1. And it really annoys me when people say, oh, I love Generation 2, Heart Gold and Soul Silver were my favorite games. Because Heart Gold and Soul Silver are not Generation 2 games. They take place in Johto, which is the region introduced in Generation 2, but they are Generation 4 games. Kanto, the region from Generation 1, is also featured in games from Generations 2, 3, 4, and 7, so far. But there's more, because generations are almost entirely a fan-made concept. There's almost no mention of it in any kind of official media. The way the Pokemon Company tends to group Pokemon is by regions, by the regions they were first discovered in. If you look at Pokemon Go, for example, whenever they announce new Pokemon being added, it's by the name of the region, not by a generation number. Which brings us back to Meltan. Meltan was first introduced through Pokemon Go in September of 2018, just before Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were released, so well within the timeline of Generation 7. But because Meltan was introduced in Pokemon Go, it was not first discovered in the Alola region. Actually, it was never even available in Alola. It has happened before that a Pokemon was introduced before the official release of its generation of games. Like with Munchlax being available in XD Gale of Darkness before the release of Diamond and Pearl, and Munchlax was definitely first discovered in Sinnoh. But that's only ever happened in spin-off games, whereas Meltan was available in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which were main series games of Generation 7. Side note pet peeve, people who insist that Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were not main series games when the official Japanese website lists them as main series. But back to Meltan. It wasn't first discovered in Alola or in Kanto, and not in Galar either. Pokemon Go lists it in the Unknown region. Pokemon Home calls it Unknown Origins. So for the Pokemon of the Year vote, where would they put it? It wouldn't really make sense to have Meltan and Melmetal on their own for that, so it's kind of a judgment call whether to group them with Alola, Kanto, or Galar. But Sword and Shield are the first entirely new main series games that they will be obtainable in, so to me that choice makes sense. But here's a further pet peeve. This whole discussion doesn't even matter. What difference does it make whether Meltan is Generation 7 or 8, or generationless? Frankly, I think that this whole controversy is just maintained by people who don't like Joe Merrick of Cerebi.net. He says that Meltan is Generation 7, they don't like him, so they disagree with him. And frankly, it's just really exhausting to watch. But maybe we should shift focus a little bit and talk about some non-Meltan related pet peeves. Here's one that I have been guilty of myself. Saying that a move is 4 times resisted. If you say 4 times effective, that does kind of make sense. Super effective is typically 2 times the damage, and we don't really have a term for double super effective, but it is 4 times the damage, so 4 times effective does kind of make sense. If you say you have a 4 times weakness, that does start to bother me. Again, it is 4 times the damage, but 1 weakness is 2 times the damage. So if you say a 4 times weakness, to me that sounds like you have 4 weaknesses, not 2. But 4 times resisted is even worse. You only have 2 resistances, and you're not multiplying damage by 4, you're multiplying damage by 1/4. I wish we had official terms for this kind of thing, but for now, I'm gonna call them double weakness and double resistance. What? Liam's commentary triggers me sometimes, okay? How about this one? Standing Meowth. That's it, that's the peeve. Okay, no, standing Purloin too. Meowth bothers me because it used to be on all 4s, and the reason that they all stand now is because of Team Rocket's Meowth, which had a whole origin story about how it learned to walk on 2 legs. But it became a mascot, and so now all Meowth stand on 2 legs. At least the standing pose does look okay. Purloin was always intended as something that could stand, but its 3D model doesn't look like it. Just reminds me of an actual standing cat, and that does not look normal. You know Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny? I don't like them. Well, I don't really mind them, but it does bother me when people take them too seriously. Because really, the reason that all of the nurses and all the police officers in the anime are identical cousins is a gag. It's basically a parody of how all of the nurse and police officer characters in the games look identical. Obviously, that's just because they all use the same nurse or police officer sprite, not because of some deep lore. Unless you want to take it too far and also claim that all of the youngsters and all of the beauties are also all identical cousins. No, they're just represented by the same sprite. So it frustrates me when people make these complex theories about why all of the nurses and police officers in Pokémon are identical. It's just a joke. I love Pokémon theories, but some things can just be a self-aware joke. Last one, but it's an important one. No, Pokémon is not for children. Yeah, I'm gonna have to qualify that one a lot. So Pokémon as a franchise is generally aimed more at kids than at anyone else. That's including not just the main series games, but also the anime, the trading cards, the merch. There's also been a number of apps and spin-off games that are clearly aimed at a younger audience. But the main series games are not. The target audience of Pokémon is all age groups. You could say that certain games do have a younger demographic, like Let's Go. With its cuter graphics and simplified mechanics, it is easier to capture that younger audience that is really just interested in the cool monsters. But even then, it's not just for them. It's also for their parents, or for people who have never played Pokémon before, or who only know Pokémon Go, or who haven't played a Pokémon game in 20 years. It's for everyone. But I definitely think that the core audience nowadays is in their 20s or older. Game Informer did an interview with Masuda and Omori in the lead up to Sword and Shield, where Omori says that Pokémon is about the experience of being a child. It's not really something you sell to children. Hey, child, remember what it was like when you were a child? No, you sell that to grown-ups, to people who aren't kids anymore, but want to hold on to some of that. Another side note pet peeve, people who commented on my Sinnoh sequels video saying that remakes would be better for people who never played the original. Guess what? If they didn't play the originals, they have no nostalgia for those games. Remakes are for people who have nostalgia. Of course, that was people who did play the originals saying that, but I asked some people that I know who didn't play them, and they agreed that sequel or remake wouldn't make much of a difference to them. Well, I look forward to hearing your Pokemon pet peeves and your reactions to mine as well. Comment section of this video should be pretty fun. If you enjoyed watching this, I would appreciate it if you hit the like button. It not only lets me know that you enjoyed the video, but it also, more importantly, tells the YouTube algorithm to show this video to more people. If you're new here, you can check out my other Pokemon pet peeves, and if I've earned your subscription, I hope you enjoy your stay. Thank you to my patrons, especially luxury patron Ethan Saffron. I'm Umbreon Libris. I'll see you in the next chapter. Keep going, airplane. Literally, because if you stop, you fall.
God.